Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name's Jen Miroff. I'm the chair of the Legislative Action Committee, and welcome on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. We're here to brief you on the Massachusetts Indigenous Legislative Agenda, and we are so very pleased to welcome a member. And Felina Silver Robinson is a town meeting member in Brookline, and she's also on the League of Women Voters of Brookline Steering Committee. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to ask everyone to mute if you're not speaking, and I will go ahead and turn things over to Felina. So I will spotlight you, Felina.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank first Jen Miroff for inviting me to share my feelings as to why Indigenous legislative issues matter to me. I would also like to thank each of you for being here and taking time out of your busy evenings. I would like to tell you a story. My mother, now recently deceased, was born and raised in North Carolina. Her mother was Cherokee and her father was Mohawk. Her last name was Silver, but she was aware that that was not the name her family was originally given. This is the start of a life of shame for where she came from. My mom left home at the age of 16 because, like many different Native families, there is discrimination related to skin color. If someone in the family looks different, then the family is judged and it is assumed someone cheated. More shame is attached. My mother was the darkest of her mother's offspring. She was picked on by each of her siblings, and her mother treated her badly, as well as members of their community. She couldn't take the treatment they all continued to give her. She headed to Boston to look for work. Upon her arrival, with her hair down to her ankles and her moccasins, she was told that if she was looking for a job, she would have to come back with her hair cut and with no moccasins. She didn't know what else to do other than what she was directed to do. She was young with only an elementary school education. To her benefit, she was pretty. And in the end, I believe that is what got her the job, but at what cost? Going on to the legislation that is supported by the League of Women Voters of Mass, which are 5. I won't go deeply into what those are because Jen will be going over them. But with regards to changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, I wanted to share that my second oldest daughter, I'm very proud to say, was very involved in the spearheading of rallies throughout her time at Brookline High School to start the initial process of getting that change to happen. Clearly, it took some more time because now she's a mother at age 33 to 2 children, and we're still having that effort taken. With regards to protecting Native American heritage, I believe that it's very important, and I'm not sure if many of you are aware that there are pieces of Native American history and Native American funerary objects that are all about Massachusetts and other places, America, wherever. But it has become law, and NAGPRA is the agency that works on trying to get things back to one place or returned to the original tribes. I believe this effort is extremely important because just like ourselves, I can't see that you would imagine having pieces of you, your family, or your ancestors collected and potentially sold off to collectors. These items obviously need to stay with their families, their tribes, and in museums in one place, not sold off to individual owners. Regarding Native mascot letters, having those mascots removed from any place, any parquet floor, college, high school, anywhere, is an extremely important effort, which I am also proud to say that my daughter spearheaded at Brookline High. And thankfully, with her efforts, it happened and spearheaded all other high schools with any mascots removing theirs also from their parquet floors. This is an extremely important effort so as to be respectful to Native people and their families. And I'm sorry if I'm moving quickly. I just don't want to take up all the time. With regards to celebrating and teaching Native American cultures and history, I'm sure that everybody's aware that unfortunately our current curriculum and past curriculum did not teach our children Native American history. I definitely didn't learn anything. My mother, where she grew up, it was never taught there, and shame was attached to who you were, obviously, if they're making you cut your hair to hide who you are. So with every other race there is, we all know that we learn something, at least little tidbits outside of, Thanksgiving Day and sitting across the table with the pilgrims. Being Indigenous is so much more than that. And it's not just about Native Americans. Indigeneity is about anyone Indigenous. So this is very important to teach that part of history, which for me is very important that that bill passes, because if our children are not taught, then they can't teach the next generation. And if only parents had been taught before, then the children wouldn't have such hard lessons to learn now. Educating Native youth. Every Indigenous student, just like any other student, deserves the best educational opportunity possible. This also would allow them to move on to college or any technical training that would just be best suited for them, so that they could move on and have the most prosperous, beneficial life for themselves and for their families. And this is why passing these legislative issues are very important to me, because it would fulfill the opportunities for all Native Americans. It would bring respect and honor back to the families that have lived without it for centuries. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, but that's all I have for you.
Oh, thank you, Felina. That was beautiful. And would you like me to share the photos of your mom?
Yes, please.
Great.
I wanted to also share with everyone a couple of pictures of my mom to see if you could see her indigeneity. And no, that's not me in her arms.
It's a beautiful photo. There's your mom. And then let me share the next one. Sorry about that. Okay, I have the next one. Hopefully it'll... Thank you for bearing with me as I get the next one going. Here we go. Can you see that one? Your mom?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing both of them. Well,
Beautiful.
there's a gift.
Felina.
That's
Or
my
her
mom.
dad.
That's my mom and my dad. So, but not my biological father, my stepfather.
Okay, beautiful. Great.
Thank you so much for sharing those, Jen.
And I definitely want to open it up to questions, but I would like to share the information about the bills as well. But before we share that information, would you like to offer any information about your experience on the Indigenous Peoples Committee for Brookline?
Oh, yes. So some of you may know that I am the chairperson for the Indigenous People Celebration Committee in our town. And we have been working hard to educate people within the town by holding various events. Of course, our upcoming Indigenous Peoples Day celebration will be on Monday, October 9th. We haven't determined the time as of yet, but that will be shared. And so please feel free to check on the website for the town of Brookline under committees and check for Indigenous Peoples Day Celebration Committee. We will have many vendors there, as we usually do, and a couple of speakers and presenters, and we would love to have you come. We also recently co-sponsored an Indigenous author, amazing book, which I don't have in front of me because I didn't think that I was doing this. But it's also can be found on our website. We intend to do more of those co-sponsoring efforts with the Brookline Booksmith, because I feel that putting Indigenous authors out front will really help, let people see who they are and what they're capable of doing. We will also try to maybe have a film series in November, which we've, I think, done in the past. So stay tuned, and we hope that you check us out.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to remove the spotlight and I'm going to share some slides about the bills, and then we can definitely take questions. Great. Bear with me for one moment. Felina, while I'm doing that, did you start that committee specifically? Did you start the Indigenous Celebration Committee? You're muted. That's okay. I'm going to pick up my slides.
Sorry about that.
That's
unfortunate. I did not start it. I got asked to be on it when it was in its second year. But my first piece of business, thank you for actually bringing that up, was to help get the land acknowledgement passed, which took some effort and a couple of attempts to advisory and then off to town meeting to pass. And now I am happy to say that I get to read the land acknowledgement at the start of the first night of each town meeting session. So I am very grateful for that. I did, after that happened, for whatever reason, all the people that were on the committee that when I started left. So I had to totally recreate the committee, which is now even stronger than it was before. So it was kind of nice that that happened. Everybody was definitely very dedicated, but things come up in people's lives and things just changed, and all for the better, and things are really great now. So thank you for asking me to share that. The land acknowledgement, I feel, is one of the most important things that anyone can do in their town. It's just a start, but it's a very important thing to have in place. And I'm very happy that we have it.
Wonderful. Okay. Now I will hopefully have my slides. There we go. Can you see them? Good.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay. So we've surpassed community norms, everyone. I think we've covered this. I neglected to cover it, but I know we're all following them, which is to be respectful, assume positive intent, but understand impact, bring your full self and limit distractions. You can always message either me or Felina in the chat. You can use the chat feature to ask questions, or we're a small group, so it's intimate enough. We can just raise our hand and come off. When we go back to meeting, when we're done with the slides, you're welcome to come off mute and raise your hand, and we're happy to answer your questions. Okay. So we know that, we're all league members, and we know that the league is nonpartisan and that we don't endorse political parties or candidates, but we do take positions on issues. And I'm very pleased, and I thank Jean Morrison, our LWVMA board member, and a member of the Cape Cod League. She came to us with these bills, came to the Legislative Action Committee and said, please support them. And we're so grateful that she did and brought the spotlight to this issue. And we're so grateful to meet Felina and work with her from Brookline. So the positions that are found in LWVUS impact on issues and the principles, page 10, the League of Women Voters believes no person or group should suffer legal, economic, or administrative discrimination. The League believes that an equitable quality public education is critical for students. And the League supports federal policies that provide an equitable, quality public education for all children, pre-K through grade 12, a comprehensive history education for all students, and all histories being taught in school, including Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, feminist, and queer American history. So those are the positions that we use to support 4 of the 5 bills. We actually don't have a position to support the funeral objects bill, but we'll go through the 4 other bills. There are 5 bills in the Indigenous Legislative Agenda, and we'll be talking about 4. So the first one is an act establishing an Indigenous Peoples Day. It's sponsored by Senator Joe Comerford and Representative Christine Barber, and it's in the Joint Committee on State Administration and Regulatory Oversight. It would establish Indigenous Peoples Day as a state holiday, replacing Columbus Day, in order to acknowledge the history and genocide of Indigenous peoples, and to also recognize and celebrate the thriving cultures and continued resistance and resilience of Indigenous peoples and their tribal nations. So thank you, Felina, for working on that locally. Hopefully we can make this happen at the state level. The next bill is an act prohibiting the use of Native American mascots by public schools in the Commonwealth. And right now there are 23 school districts that continue to use Native American mascots. It's sponsored by Representative Brandy Fluker Oakley and Senator Joe Comerford. It's in the Joint Committee on Education. Actually, this and the next 3 of them are in the Joint Committee on Education. And this bill would direct the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, to promulgate regulations to ensure that no public school uses an athletic team name, logo, or mascot associated with Native Americans, but it does allow a tribal nation to give consent for a school to use their tribal name. And I know Representative Fluker Oakley was on the news recently about this, so hopefully there'll be some movement there. The next bill is an act providing for the creation of a permanent commission relative to the education of American Indian and Alaska Native residents of the Commonwealth. And this is sponsored by Senator Miranda, Senator Comerford, and Representative Montano. It's also in the Joint Committee on Education, and it establishes a 17-member permanent commission on American Indian and Alaska Native education to provide educational opportunities and improve educational outcomes for all American Indian and Alaska Native students. So it would further tribal self-determination, ensure students have an opportunity to learn their heritage, languages, and histories, and receive complete and competitive educations to prepare them for college, careers, and productive lives. Let's see if I can advance. Okay, so I know we have a lot of envoys on this, a lot of envoys and specialists on this meeting. I'm so grateful for all of your work. So we talk about effective advocacy, which is hearing from constituents. We want representatives and senators to receive personal emails and phone calls from their constituents in support of these bills and the agenda. And you would include the bill number, the title, your name, and complete address. You can check to see if the legislator is a co-sponsor of the bill. If they are, you can thank them. And if they're not, ask for their support. And our ask is the same. We want them to request a hearing on the bills. We don't have a hearing scheduled yet, but we know all the bills have to be reported out of committee by February, early February. So there'll be a lot of hearings in September and October. So we're looking for a hearing date, and we want the bills to be reported favorably out of committee. So that's always the ask right now. So I wanted to show you, if you type in one of the bill numbers at malegislature.gov and just type the bill number in the top right, search the legislature right here, you can see who the petitioners are. Those are the co-sponsors. So you can check to see if your legislator is already signed up in support as a co-sponsor. And then these are the members of the Committee on Education. And I'll share the link and the slides with everyone tomorrow morning. I can share these slides and the links, and you can see who's on the Joint Committee to see if your legislator is a member. And then the Committee for the Indigenous Peoples Day, the for the Indigenous Peoples Day is in the Joint Committee on State Administration and Regulatory Oversight. And these are the members there. So I'll share these links with you. And if you're not sure who your legislator is, you can go to Find My Legislator at malegislature.gov. They have two handy tools now, a new tool where you can just find your location on the map, or you can type in your name and address. So I just included both screenshots here. And then if we have questions, so I'll stop sharing my slides. And then if folks would like to use the raise hand feature and come off mute and ask Felina any questions. Carol?
Yes, please. Today, I was reading an article in the New York Times written by Nicholas Kristof, and his subject was how to improve healthcare in the United States. But among the many statistics that he gave were some about Native Americans, which I had not heard before. He said that Native American newborns in this country have a shorter life expectancy than those in India, Rwanda, and Venezuela. He also pointed out that adult Native American males have a shorter lifespan at only 61.5 years than adult men in Haiti, for example. So my question is, are there, that we know of, bills that are directed specifically toward healthcare for Native Americans?
That is a fantastic question. I also read the article. It's very alarming and disarming. This is the legislative agenda provided by Indigenous People. So as a coalition, they presented these 5 bills as their priorities for this session. I'm not aware of any bills. Felina, are you aware?
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
It is
not
in
something
fact
I've
very
seen.
important.
What we could do is follow up with the legislators who filed these bills and be back in touch, but that's not something we've seen yet to date.
Thank you.
Excellent question. Nancy Bettinger?
Hi, I think I kind of missed it, but did you talk about the funerary object bill, or
No, we did not. So the League of Women Voters of US and Massachusetts does not have a position to support the funerary objects bill. We only have positions to support the 4 other bills. Yes. So the Indigenous Peoples Day and the 3 education related bills.
Okay. And can I ask another question about acknowledgement? I mean, I'm interested in that. I've been thinking that it would be good to, advocate for leagues to do that in league meetings. But I think for me, the barrier is not knowing how to do it properly. So I'm wondering if we had models for, how to do it. And I've seen like for Massachusetts, in some places, it looks like you just use the Massachusetts tribe. But I don't know if that's, I think it was more complicated than that. I'm not sure if it's proper just to refer to that tribe or what. I mean, I just don't know how to do it.
Most people choose a land acknowledgement that's associated with the area that they live to honor the people in their vicinity. Ours is longer than most because we wanted to speak to the history. Most people don't really do that. I've seen the majority of land acknowledgements be quite short. Ours is not short. But it's fine to look the land acknowledgement up for the area that you live. There's no proper way to read it. You read it as you see it. And it's usually just at the start of a meeting. You don't need to, especially at a league, I think that I can't speak to the rules of it if it's something that you decide is a group, but there's no other necessary process that you need to follow to read it. You read it as is.
I don't even know how to find out though,
I'm more than happy to help you if you send me a message.
That would be amazing.
Email. Okay.
Great.
I'll
Felina, would you be, great, thank you.
I was just going to say, I'll put my email in the chat and anyone who has that question can contact me.
Thank you.
Beautiful. related to what tribes would be indigenous to your local league, I guess, how we would research that.
Exactly.
And Nancy Brumbach, thank you, raised an excellent point, Carol Siebert, which is we are supporting several maternal health bills. There's a birthing justice omnibus bill that is just massive, and that's going to be a top priority for our Day on the Hill lobby day in October. Many more details to come, but maternal health is one of our focus points. I know you raised other age range brackets, but we can definitely find out more information. Thank you, Nancy Brumbach. Does anyone else have a question for Felina? Or anything they'd like to share from their local league or questions about the bills? Carol Peaty?
Yeah, I was kind of curious about the town meeting, getting it passed, that you would have acknowledgement at each one. And I wondered if Brookline is also doing that at, say, select board meetings or other municipal kinds of events like that.
In Brookline, I read it at the first night of town meeting, but I have been asked at various events to read the land acknowledgement. I think I did it at a Mothers Out Front event. It's whoever wants it. I'm always happy to do it, or a member of our group. There's only 2 Indigenous people, including myself, on the committee. So most of the time I end up doing it, and I don't mind doing it. Especially since I worked so hard to make sure that it went through. But anyone can request that it be done. I'm always happy to do it. And it's the choice of your town to have it read wherever you want it to be read. It's your decision as a town to make those decisions. But it's really meant, again, to honor Native Americans, Indigenous people. And I appreciate your asking that.
Thank you.
That's great. And Felina, could you share some of your experience when you were at the lobby day? How were the legislators responsive when you were dropping? I think, going from office to office.
Say that I didn't get to go office to office because I got caught. Somebody caught me out front. But I did want to say that it was such an amazing turnout. I hadn't been to one of the events there, but I just wanted to say how excited I was to see the volume of people and with the excitement that they had for what was going on. And the majority of people I did see did go in and meet the people, meet the representatives and the senators. So I was very happy to see that. I wasn't planning to speak myself. I don't usually like to do any sort of public speaking, but one of the committee members from the Indigenous Peoples Day Committee pushed me up there, and I did it off the top of my head, but it was really great. And it was nice to see the people come from inside the State House to come out and speak to us. And they did such an eloquent job and supported everything. And they were hard at work and stating that they hoped that things would pass, as we all do. So I can't say anything more than that, but it was just nice to see the outpouring of support for these bills.
Wonderful. Irene?
Hi. I had a question about land acknowledgements. We in the Wellesley League have been doing a land acknowledgement sort of at the beginning of each board meeting. And we don't do the same one each time. And sometimes we find land acknowledgements from, maybe a college that we went to or some other place in the country. And I think it's I don't know whether Wellesley has a land acknowledgement or not, but as a town. But I think it's interesting to read some of these and to get a flavor of what Indigenous peoples are like in other parts of the country. It's quite interesting.
Well, that's a really nice idea. I like that you do it that way, because people really don't know. I mean, it's only something that's been started to be looked at. I know some people have been doing it for quite some time, but here around our area, it's something that people have just been thinking of. And I'm a part of the group MAPA, which I don't remember what all the acronyms are because I only just started being a part of it. And when they heard that I had worked on writing our land acknowledgement, they asked me to read mine instead of them reading their own. And they said, oh, wow, that's really kind of meaty. And I explained that, we wanted to get some of the history behind what happened. And then he wanted to read his just so that he could show me what theirs was. And it was so short. And I said, but the length is not what matters. The acknowledgement is what matters, and giving honor, bringing honor. That's all that matters. So I just think it's nice, as you say, to get a taste for what other people have gone through, because it usually represents what their people have gone through, suffered through, and nobody paid attention to. And the land acknowledgement is an opportunity for people to pay honor and to see and to learn what nobody's told them before.
Yes.
So thank you.
Diana?
Thanks, Felina. I think one thing that excites me about the legislative envoys and the whole connection that we have from local to state to national is that in this case, we can actually do something about what the land acknowledgement is acknowledging. Because sometimes I think people think, oh, that's a bunch of nice words, but then what? And so if we, the way my mind is spinning here is if we are able to publicize within Brookline what we are doing as a league to help provide meat underneath what the point of the land acknowledgement is in this day and age, I think that's very important.
I agree. And thank you for always thinking.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And Deborah asked a question in the chat, why we don't have a position to support number 5. So in order to support bills that the Legislative Action Committee of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts follows about 168 bills right now out of the 6,500 plus bills in the legislature. And every time we decide to support a bill, we have to make sure there's a position in either impact on issues at the national level or where we stand at the Massachusetts level. And we just have to have a position already in place to support the bill. And we don't have that position yet. So right now you're welcome to support the funerary objects bill as an individual or through another group. But we do have positions to support the 4 out of 5. So every time we support a bill and put our name on it, we go through the process of submitting written testimony and submitting it to the joint committee in support of the bill. But at this time, we just don't have a national position or Massachusetts position on that. But please definitely, support it as an individual. Nancy?
Is there any thought to doing a study? I mean, we'd have to do a study, right?
We'd have to do a study. We'd have to do a study. So at convention, we approved a study. The current study right now in Massachusetts is on reparations, which is a 2-year process. And we also adopted a position by concurrence on death with dignity from Utah. So we could look for a position from if another state league has a position, we could look for that for adoption at our next convention. So that's something, and I know people have a lot of ideas about positions to adopt at our next convention. I know there's one about, a more specific book ban policy. Wellesley is very interested in. So there are definitely many issues we could look at for adoption, positions to adopt at the next convention at the state league. And Nancy Brumback, if you want to add anything there, I'm open to any feedback. Does anyone have any other questions for Felina or questions about the bills? Great, so we could wrap up. I just want to say thank you so much to Felina. We so appreciate you sharing your personal experience. It's very powerful and empowering, and we're grateful for you. And we'll follow up tomorrow with the slides and any information on the bills. And we hope everyone has a lovely evening. Okay, thank you. Take
everyone.
care. Good night. I will stop recording.